I'm Jeremy Leach from Inclusivity Solutions. Please join me at the InsurTech Business Series podcast for a discussion around embedded insurance in the emerging Africa.
Really nice to have you here, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's really great to be joining you. So thank you very much for inviting me. You're very privileged.
Thank you for joining us. I know that you've been a man that has done quite a lot from, consulting capacity to finance to insurance and with inclusivity that you currently do. Talk to us about your journey into, insurance, how you discovered insurance and why you chose insurance.
Great question. I don't know how far you want me to go back, but I guess there's a couple of things that jumps out. I mean, one, I first started off life as an accountant in the offshore finance industry in Jersey with Deloitte and Ernst & Young. Then I had, a quarter-life crisis and decided to have a career change from finance, went to the Master International Development, joined DFIB. And then I came to Finmark Trust, a think tank in South Africa, which was the first the financial sector deepening trust, which led to FSD Africa and the FINA in Nigeria specifically. And at that time, I was overseeing the broader financial services verticals from payments, credit, savings, and insurance. This was the early days of payments, and Payster was still very much a POC in those days. So it was quite a while ago, but I saw there was a lot of traction around those other financial verticals. So, payments had been, big kind of from GSMA, a lot of excitement around, what's going to happen in the payment space, that kind of area.
Yeah.
And that was the rails around the financial service side. There was a lot of focus around credit, savings. I think still has some challenges, but there was also bets around in savings. And insurance was the lonely one out. It was the one that had received the least amount of attention in emerging markets. And even today, we still see that it's still a challenge of only 3 to 5% of the adult population, many emerging markets, not having insurance. So again, penetration remains low and is even lower at that time. So essentially, I left Finmark Trust saying I wanted to focus on the one that had the least amount of focus, but had the highest potential for social impact. And insurance done well has high social impact. So essentially, I doubled down in insurance and joined a big insurance company, Hollard, to basically be the first ever head of segment focusing on what's now called inclusive insurance or emerging consumer insurance or microinsurance as it was then, to really say, let's try and test the modalities to really get insurance working at scale across multiple countries, from South Africa to Kenya to Pakistan and Ghana and others.
Right. I mean, I really wanted to understand this problem that you identified in terms of insurance being one that was the least interesting amongst, all of the financial verticals, like you mentioned. How did you know it was big enough? How did you know that this was a major problem, that the solution you were going to bring in was going to cater to that problem?
Well, great question. And so, I mean, South Africa, I think, as you know, is an anomaly in the African space. I think someone that is like 60% of the premium of in terms of insurance in Africa is generated in South Africa, and you've seen like 40% of the population seem to have insurance, although very, very skewed to funeral insurance as the demand-led kind of product in the market. So we kind of saw that there are examples, both in say for example South Africa and I guess developing countries, where insurance can reach a significant number of part of the population and provide that real value. And if you look north of the borders and you look at the FinScope surveys across multiple countries, you can see how low the penetration was in that market. But insurance was designed around that for the low mass market. If you go back a few hundred years, it was really designed to cover those people who weren't able to mitigate their risk by having multiple assets. So insurance is designed primarily on the retail space for the low mass market. So it's perfectly designed for those kind of underserved, underinsured people in those kind of markets. And if you look at the size of populations, you look at how low the penetration is, but the ways to try and hit that market, it clearly kind of adds up to a significant market. I mean, these days you now have research saying that embedded insurance, which is, I guess, a broader subset of, I guess, inclusive insurance, is $1 trillion market. So we're certainly a sizable market, massively underpenetrated.
Okay, so now let's talk about your business, Inclusivity. Right. And also where you started from, because I think that sort of speaks to how you've progressed over time. What was the model supposed to address initially? what did it seek to address and how did it evolve over time? And your initial launch market, what was the purpose or what was the rationale behind that?
Great question. We could be here a little while here. But I think was obviously around the understanding around how to increase access to insurance. So I think our early days, it was very much of a bespoke design, build, operate model. So we did heavy lifting, we did human-centered design research in individual markets. We then customized kind of new products for those particular kind of segments. And on that basis, built out the capabilities. We initially outsourced our platform, which was a very painful experience, kind of at the time. Platform, was a very painful experience actually overall. So it was a heavy lifting, really understand the needs of customers and design products for that customer base, and then putting together the distribution in order to access those customers. So our first live pilot was in Uganda, and it was a fantastic. We basically did a broken bone insurance policy for boda drivers, those kind of motorbike taxi drivers that...
How did that go? I'm so curious about that. How was the claims experience like? How was the...
Well, initially really well. And as I said, boda drivers are well known across Africa, of course. And their key risk that they came out through the research was that if they break a bone and they're wearing a cast, nobody's going to ride them. So essentially, bone destroy their ability to earn income. So insurance was saying that if you broke a bone or in hospital, we'd have a kind of payout, basically loss of income during that time. And it's a great idea, great concept. I think we signed up around 5,000 policies within a relatively short time, which was also great. The big challenge was we'd launched with Uganda Telecoms, which was, I have to say, a fantastic partner, really supportive, really engaged. The team moved fast as well. And that, unfortunately, they then went into bankruptcy proceedings. And at that point, unfortunately, we had a owner also providing some support for marketing. They decided to pull out because of this. And so, unfortunately, the initiative closed down because, again, it wasn't really a high priority compared with managing a receivership.
That must have been a tough blow.
That was such a tough blow. Again, everything was working well. We're getting some decent kind of numbers, guys kind of brand, and then the rug gets pulled out from under you. So yes, very frustrating first experience.
Wow. So taking that experience, how were you then able to, of course, I'm sure that you would have taken those learnings, you would have taken on those, experiences and understood, what the challenge might be. So how exactly did Inclusivity Solutions evolve from that experience?
Great. I think after that, and it took a little while, we were very privileged that we basically launched 3 of the biggest brands on the continent within a few months. These were brands like Equity Bank in Kenya through Equitel, the MVNO, Airtel in Rwanda, and Orange in Cote d'Ivoire. In fact, just how it happened, we actually launched of Equity and Airtel in the same week. So literally, I was in kind of Kenya and Rwanda within the same week to do the launch events, which wasn't planned from our side. It's just how it kind of...
Awesome.
And Orange in Cote d'Ivoire kind of a couple of months kind of later on that side. So they were fantastic brands, but they also taught us some really tough lessons as well about what are the main drivers for insurance. So I think the biggest lesson that my team says I maybe repeat a bit much, but is critical, is frictionless payments. So they were brands, fantastic trust and fantastic brand, but they weren't able to collect premiums on a frictionless basis, which basically means you need to collect premium without effort. So unfortunately, all 3 of them we were stuck in a position where they had to pay their premium manually, or what's called a push payment model on a monthly basis. We've proven that you lose 90% of the revenue for those models. So I think where we've evolved now is we basically are laser focused around frictionless payments, the ability to collect premium without effort. And we've built these platform product offerings that really enable our partners to seamlessly offer insurance that addresses that requirement, whether it's by recurring payments, daily, weekly, monthly, with airtime, mobile money, bank accounts, crypto. No, we haven't done crypto yet, but maybe now Binance is coming down in Nigeria. We can look at that, or in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
All kind of bundled with other products. So whether you buy a flight, you buy a bus ticket, you send a money transfer, send remittance, you can add insurance to those kind of bundles, or loyalty type models, which we also do. So a lot of what we've done since then is a laser focus on frictionless payments, which they've asked as well. In those markets where the payments were pushed, we had clients ringing up the call center saying, this doesn't work for us. We want to pay automatically. It's hard to pay, $1 or less every month on that side. So again, they wanted that frictionless payment. So we focus very much around that. We've also very much kind of focused around the platform that's fit for purpose. So we've designed a platform, Aspen, that you mentioned earlier, specifically based on what we knew we wanted, but probably more importantly, what we knew we didn't want. So it's designed to be extremely simple, extremely easy to integrate with our partners, as demonstrated by having an open API with no passwords, so they can play, anybody can play with our insurance as a service offering without any kind of effort on that side. And then beyond the platform, we also support on product development and pricing and data analytics and customer experience, because we know insurance is still tough in this space. The platform in and of itself won't solve everything. Technology is only an enabler. It's not necessarily the only solution. So beyond the platform, beyond technology, we also support with those other skills needed to really understand what works in this market, what doesn't work across these markets. So again, I think we've evolved to one where we have that kind of core agile platform with multiple products from life, non-life to health that support multiple use cases and really designed to be simple and accessible for all.
I mean, that's an amazing journey. I mean, just to be sure that what you started with has now grown to this all-inclusive frictionless payment, the SaaS platform for business, as well as data analytics for key partners or players that are looking to enter or, penetrate the insurance market, right?
Absolutely. So we've got a whole range of different partners who want to add insurance to their offering, from telcos, which is where we broadly started, to banks and fintechs, to e-commerce providers, to employee groups, and really kind of help and obviously supported and working with insurers across the markets. So we basically enable those partners to add insurance to those offering, either to mitigate their risk or to retain their customers, to drive kind of loyalty, or of course to can drive kind of revenue. But essentially, it's got to add value for everybody, kind of in that kind of value chain. So that's, again, we're really focused around ensuring that we delight customers in the market, but obviously our partners in those markets as well.
You won the Viva Tech Award again for your platform being an open API system. I mean, one of the things that we've seen in the insurance and InsurTech industry, for instance, would be organizations like Pingan or Zongan, who have created that ecosystem and also provided or given their infrastructure to other insurance companies that are willing to latch upon those open APIs and also the existing technology infrastructures that they have. So I mean, apart from your Viva Tech Award, which is an awesome feat, congratulations by the way, what are your next plans for growing inclusivity solutions? What are you looking at? What are your future steps? What's the next big thing?
Fantastic. That's a great question. So, I mean, again, and I have to say that Viva Tech Award was really a real pleasant surprise. And it's also something that surprised me is how focused and energized Viva Tech was on Africa. I hadn't expected that to be more European focus, but it was absolutely brilliant experience and incredibly busy and a lot of excitement around the African market. In terms of what are we looking for? Well, at the moment, I think we're reaching about just over 2.7 million clients with 500,000 active clients. And what's interesting, an addressable base of 250 million clients at the moment through our current partners. So, and as I said, with Viva Tech, I guess going forward, we facing the big three. So if you think of South Africa, the big five, kind of animals, the big three. So our big three kind of priorities are one, I guess really, creating a sustainable growth through our existing partners. And as I said, our current base reaches a potential 250 million kind of clients across 8 countries and beyond in that space. So sustainable growth for our current base, so monetizing that existing base is our priority one. So working with our partner, distribution partners and insurers to really grow that base. The second kind of priority is around business development, looking for new partners across those markets, whether distribution partners. I mean, you've seen we've launched with Axis Bank in Botswana kind of recently. We launched with Airtel Malawi, and we launched with Metropolitan Life in kind of Ghana in the last kind of a few months, which is exciting. We want to continue looking for those new partners in new markets. So again, continuing to expand across markets. And of course, the third one is to sustain that, to support that growth is fundraising on that. No surprise. So these kind of big three is around, continue to grow our existing base, look for new partners, and the fundraising. And beyond that, I mean, we're going to continue to build out our platform. It already covers almost a dozen products already, from life, non-life to health. We're increasingly kind of using more and more kind of machine learning, kind of AI in those kind of capabilities, which is always kind of exciting, and just continue to add to the capabilities that we offer, and continue kind of expansion, whether in Africa, which is our passion, or potentially Southeast Asia as well.
Hi, I'm Simon Schwall, the CEO and founder of Oko Insurance, and I'm listening InsurTech Business Series podcast to keep informed about the insurance news in the continent, and I invite you to do the same.
Really fantastic, which then brings me to, I can see that you're heavy on partnerships. I just wanted to know, or our audience would also like to know, how you've been able to manage that aspect of your business, because if they're key, and if you're not strategic about those partnerships, they are also a recipe to failure. So how have you been able to manage those partnerships that you've created, and the ones that you're also looking to create in the future?
Well, I think everybody knows that, at least on the enterprise sales side, which is the sales side, that enterprise sales is slow. It's not the quickest way. So sometimes you would be nice to go direct to consumer, because you know how quick and agile we could be in testing the market. But we are really a partnership-based organization. So we invest quite a lot in terms of those kind of relationships, supporting our partners, as I said, from not only the platform, but also product development, and also kind of customer experience and data analytics. So again, we're very much focused about enabling our partner to extend and increase offerings around that. And of course, that means you need to manage those relationships and delight at the end of the day. So if you look at our testimonials, but our testimonials from our partners are extremely strong, and that continues to excite us and continues to basically help reinforce what we're about. It's very much enabling our partners to do what they do the best, and add the IP and the platform to support them in their kind of offering.
So I'm just going to move quickly from your business now to the InsurTech ecosystem, especially in the South African insurance markets. It's like you said earlier on that, SA is an outlier, not just for the African continent, but for the world, right? Could you tell us about the South African market and how, the InsurTech ecosystem there thrives?
I mean, in my previous life, at both Hollard and BFA Global, the consulting firm, I obviously spent a lot of time in South Africa. And what was interesting is when we first set up, we felt that South Africa was overly contested. So we spent our initial years very much focusing north of the borders. So that's where pretty much all our markets, from Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Zambia, kind of Cote d'Ivoire, and kind of Ghana and others, as you've seen. But actually, we're now refocusing on South Africa. And we've already launched a policy administration system for microinsurer in the market, which is exciting. It's our first time we've offered a core pass for microinsurance or embedded insurance kind of players. We're mostly been enabled distribution. So South Africa is very competitive, but it's skewed. So you can see our top 10% is very well served in terms of life, kind of complex medical aid, and short-term insurance, and there is kind of digitally thriving in that area. So we see very advanced kind of plays in that area. And then if you look at the broader market, the skew is very much towards funeral insurance. So on that side, and the most common products are funeral insurance, which is very much a demand-driven product, kind of unlike many other countries in Africa where people really celebrate death and therefore they want to have a decent kind of funeral. So there's a big skew to there. Lesser so, but you see legal insurance and hospital cash and credit life as well in that space. But if you look at the short-term insurance, what they call it here, or non-life insurance, motor insurance is incredibly low, and other housing insurance also extremely low. So South Africa is definitely a market of extremes. Very sophisticated insurance market, mainly for the few, with the exception of funeral insurance, which covers the rest of the market. Huge holes in terms of other kind of voluntary products in the market. And we don't have compulsory motor insurance, like third-party motor insurance, like you do in other many markets, which is also based to kind of grow that market. And that's the whole story in itself. So in South Africa, is really interesting. And I guess we initially thought it was overly sophisticated and overly competitive, but we've actually found that our experiences north of the borders is actually putting us in a good position. We've ended up being one of the few players on the InsurTech side that is end-to-end, where often the partners are front-end or kind of back-end. We're also kind of multiple products, where often other companies are kind of mono-product or kind of more limited in that offering. We also do kind of group-based models as well as kind of retail-type models. So we've been surprised at the size of the opportunity in this market and niches where there is still a lot of value to kind of pursue in a market which is otherwise extremely contested.
Yeah, I mean, those were my initial concerns. And then I was looking also at the competition for, both insurance and InsurTech that plays in that space. Was there any point in time where, judging by your experience in other markets, did you have to, refine your product to suit the South African markets? Did you have to do any form of, redefinition, remodeling at that point?
So it is a lot more sophisticated. So, for example, there's funeral insurance business in South Africa. You have a lot more, complexity in the South African market than other markets.
Right.
So payment modalities, right. We're now supporting, cash, kind of EFT, payroll deductions, debit order functionality, card functionality. So essentially, you have a lot more complexity in payments, which isn't necessarily the same in those other kind of markets. Right. And in terms of the documentation and such like, and some of the kind of the binder rules where is more complexity. So there has been, we have had to adapt to a certain extent, but not massively so, which we were, again, somewhat kind of surprised about. So I think there is more complexity on that area. I think kind of, which we haven't launched yet, but if you go north of the to the more higher end market around motor, then again, there is certain expectations about being much more kind of digital kind of plays, where everything in the other markets is digital. But there, as you know, smartphones are, whilst we see now smartphones exceeding feature phones for the first time, the issue around the cost of data and the storage on these devices. So again, a lot of these market clients don't want to start downloading kind of apps because of storage being such an issue. But you're seeing South Africa, you can see these kind of app-driven kind of insurance kind of models, which are reaching some early scale as well in the market. So we do see some different flavors here than we are in other markets, where there's probably a fair bit more complexity than you expect in many other markets.
Well done to you and your team. What's next for you, and what's next for Inclusivity?
I think really what's next for us is that continued growth, kind of expansion to new markets, and again, continuing to scale up. I mean, we're on that mission to really grow kind of embedded insurance in emerging Africa, and that's what we want to kind of continue in terms of new countries, new products, and continue on that basis. And obviously, the aim is to be a fully sustainable, significantly profitable InsurTech within a short period of time, where we've seen that in Africa, there are a lot of InsurTechs now playing in the market, but often subscale and still having kind of challenges. We obviously want to try and help the overall market kind of grow. And that's kind of where our excitement is.
What would you advise InsurTechs that are currently in the market, or those that are trying to start an InsurTech company?
I do think, as I said, insurance remains for me the hardest vertical in financial services. And as I said, I oversaw payments, and sometimes I think maybe I should have focused on payments where there's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I do think anybody who enters insurance needs to be brave. It needs to be there in for the long run. This is not a market where you can get overnight success. Even those who are the scale and some of the kind of verticals, it's taken a while to find the kind of right model. So you do need to be kind of have the patience to kind of help drive that market in that area. And again, probably something that we didn't do enough of is find those profitable niches where you can basically test the market and then expand from there. Where, for example, you are seeing that focus on compulsory motor or such like, where you can get kind of initial kind of volume and then kind of cross-subsidize some of the other kind of plays. So I think it is patience. It's finding those kind of niches that make sense and growing from there.
Fantastic. I like the fact that you said, insurance, just to paraphrase that, insurance, it's a long-term game that requires a lot of, patience and commitment. I think that sums it up. How do you think that people might be able to reach out to you in case you're seeking for partnerships, investment?
So our website is inclusivitysolutions.com. Also, LinkedIn works really, really well. And those who are developers or technically inclined, if you go to our website, inclusivitysolutions.com, and hit platform, the open APIs are available for you. We've had one fintech launch 2 products, a voluntary and embedded product in a couple of hours. We'd love to hear feedback from you around how quickly and how easy it is for you to spin up products across our kind of our plug and play product suite kind of in the market. But yeah, please reach out. LinkedIn, website.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your time. All the very best.